Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast and to this solo episode, which has been a little bit overdue to say the least. I know I've been saying for a while that I was going to do some solo episodes with tools and tips and etc. But it's been a time of reflection over the last Christmas period, and I would hope and believe that it's going to be better for the podcast going forward. So here we are, overdue. But what I wanted to do is give you a little bit of an update of where I'm at, where things are going, how I thought about last year, and then also offering a few concepts and tools that you might want to try and give a try in your own life. So to start with, I wanted to just mention that um, I need to remind myself that it always comes down to authenticity. And one of the things that sometimes puts me in this like paralysis around what I'm doing with the podcast is this like need for perfectionism. And this morning is a prime example. It's like Friday morning, it's podcasting day. It's like it should be positive. Like literally, the first thing I did this morning, I had an appointment on my calendar with a brand partnership, which is like really exciting and should be something that I should be looking forward to. But for some reason, it like triggered this weird response of kind of like, oh, I don't want to do it. I don't want to talk to this person. I'm not good enough. Da, 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 all that kind of thing. And it's like I felt really tired when I woke up, and I'm like, most of you will know I have like quite a set routine in terms of habits and stuff we'll do. I'm doing another episode on habits. And it it was like and to be honest, like I couldn't even get out of bed. I was like just completely stuck. So I was like, okay, how can I just like get myself out somehow? And then even though it's not healthy, I'm like, I've got a can of Monster in the fridge, and maybe I don't need to do a cold shower today. It's been really fucking cold in the UK. Maybe I don't need to do a cold shower, so I could go downstairs. I could have a hot shower and um, have a can of Monster and then jump on this call and then give myself permission to do it. So it's more of a tool, I guess, really. But also, like I'm wearing this hat and like that. I was like, oh, I need to do this episode, and I need to have a shave, and I need to like have my hair cut and stuff but like it's such a mess at the moment. Um, I might cut it at some point. I don't know. But overarching theme of, I think I just need to show up more often and just be authentic and not worry about all the perfectionism side of things, which will go into like some of the stuff that I wanted to talk about. And yeah, I mean, this episode was supposed to be going out over Christmas. I'll be honest, like the back end of this year, I don't feel or didn't feel that I was performing as well as I would like versus like in the summer. I don't know. Just for some reason, I just couldn't get like my brain working the same. Um, and although I've been like getting stuff done, it's just um, I know like internally I've not been as good as I have been in the past. So doing these like tools, and because I put something on my story the other day and said, "Oh, what would you want to see?" And loads of people asked for the tools and tips, and then I'm like, "Well, who the fuck am I to to offer like, hey, look at all these tools and tips to improve your life?" Meanwhile, I'm like, I suffer with depression and low mood and motivation and all these things, and I'm like, well, why the fuck, like, why would anyone take advice off me? Like, that's like, yeah. So I'm still maybe wrestling with that one a little bit, but I suppose you forget when you're like within your own life, like, although my life isn't perfect and there is no such thing as a perfect life, I still have things that can help people, in my opinion, just from like real life conversations as well, where like at times someone will ask me or I'll offer something that will be helpful to people. Um, yeah, so that's why I'm doing this. Also, how flowy is that? Just also, um, last year was an incredible year in terms of moving forward with the podcast. Since April, I published an episode every Monday without fail, where I was up until 1 o'clock in the morning on Sunday night or Monday morning. So like I'm proud that I kept up with that. I must say, I like maybe a month or two ago or something, I was very close to giving up. A collection of things seem to happen. Like the rigors of the schedule are intense, and I'd received some negative, somewhat constructive, but negative at the end of the day, feedback from one or two people close to me, actually. And, if it was someone online, then it's kind of, you could kind of dismiss it as, that's that classic trope of like, oh, just, don't look at the comments and stuff. But with it being like closer to home, I'm kind of like, okay, well, I like respect like what this person thinks. But I'm trying to like do this thing the way that I think it should be done, and like I'm the one doing it, and these people aren't doing podcasting, and they're probably not interested in the same sorts of podcasts that I listen to. But at the same time, kind of going, well, you should listen to the feedback. And I tapped into this quite a lot in the last episode with Joey Lou, and you can see I was really struggling with it, and it just totally ruined the experience for me, because I was going into all these conversations, and it takes like, it's quite a nerve-wracking thing to be interviewing people like, Professor Sarah Berry, who's like a professor, and then there's just this guy from the northwest of England, just drilling her on protein, asking her about protein, and kind of like trying to like debate a little bit. I'm like, who am I? So like, it's quite a it need it the you need that balance of confidence and also like, a little bit of feedback, but I would rather like self feedback, if that makes sense, because I listen back to all the episodes anyways, and most of the time I can pick up on where I'm like, okay, I didn't pick up on that, or I should have asked for clarification there, or I'm talking about myself quite a lot in that bit. Okay, maybe I need to dial it back. But when it's kind of like placed upon you from someone else, it can end up hitting your confidence, and then takes me out of the conversations, because rather than being just present with the guest, present with learning about myself, present with trying to have a deep conversation and offering a little bit of my story to the conversation, so that can help the guest feel that they're in a safe place, that they're bonding to a certain extent, which obviously helps the conversation become better. And hopefully you guys will see a little bit of like, oh, like that thing that like Jason said, that maybe I've got a little bit of that or something, because certainly that's what I've done with podcasts over the year. is you'll sort of hear something, and you're like, oh, that does sound like me, actually. And you should be wary of just picking up everything. Oh yeah, that's me. That's me. Oh yeah, I've got autism. I've got ADHD. I've got this. I'm a people pleaser. Stuff like that. So you got to be careful that you don't just pick up everything as you go along, but kind of notice it and be like, okay, is that maybe there's something here for me? And if not, maybe it's there's someone else. Um, that's something that I've realized as well. I'll be listening to other podcasts, and I'm like, there is nothing here really that applies to me, and yet I'm still kind of interested in it. Um, so yeah, and I think what I realized was it was almost like, and I've come up with a training analogy. It was like doing all these episodes. It was like doing tons of training in the gym, but never having a rest day. And it's on the rest days that you actually actualize the gains, where you actually grow the muscle. Um, and I think because I've just been working so hard and just kind of like over and over again, like all these podcasts, and also like in fairness, like not having that much time for the people around me, friends and family. Which I knew that might be a thing that I'd have to sacrifice for a period of time. But it's hard because you don't want the rest of your life to fall apart. While you're doing this other thing. The hope would be that they understand that you're trying to do something different, and it does take some sacrifice. But yeah, so the Christmas period allowed me this like rest time that I needed to really think about where I'm going with the podcast and how I feel about everything, and what I've learned about myself. So it did take me, I think, further away from the person that I aspire to be, but um, it's all good. Back to training. It's like sometimes you can actually you can do like overtraining as like a strategy to like build up endurance, like smashing a lot of training, but then take a big old rest, and then you get the benefit afterwards. Just providing you don't get injured or the or completely fuck up your life during that period. Um, so so all that to say is I'm going to be much smarter with my time moving forward. I don't want to take a step back with the podcast. I actually want to grow it a bit. Uh, but I'm going to be much more intentional with my time and try and, like batch episodes and focus less on being perfect all the time. One of the things that seems to take up a lot of my time is like recording the intros, because I've kind of got to be looking at the camera. Hello, welcome back to the podcast. My guest today is da, 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 and I'm always looking at the camera, and I've got to like memorize it. And that's one thing that really seems to take the joy out of it for me. So I'm kind of really looking at how can I do that differently. So I've been thinking about what I might do is I might do like a mini intro on the podcast, as in I'm sat with the guest and I say, you know, Professor Sarah Berry, and then I'll read out her bio before we go into it. Then it's kind of like that's already done. Because as well, like I don't know about you, but whenever I listen to a podcast and they do the intro, I'm like skip, 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 past the sponsorship, and then straight to the bit. But maybe that's because I've built up trust with that podcaster. So if you're a new person listening, then it's useful. So could be that, or it may be that I was thinking, do I just print off the introductions and then just read them out? Just like, hello, welcome back to the podcast. My guest today is so and so, so and so. They do this, this, and that. Because when podcasts were audio only, like my first ever episode with Joey Webber, and check that out now and see how bad I was as a podcaster. Still improving. Um, yeah, because it was audio only, I was able to type up a script and just read it off, and it was like really professional. Because I could just read. So maybe I do that. The reason I've not been doing that is because I'm trying to repurpose them as reels and introductions to go on to Instagram. But Instagram's a whole other thing that's kind of been making me miserable. um, so yeah, I'm trying to apply my effort in more effective ways. So I might as well talk about that now. Like I've been really trying to come away from phone use and social media, looking at where is my time being like wasted and totally sunk. How do I feel when I do certain things? How do I feel when I use Instagram? How do I feel when I'm messaging people on WhatsApp? And like even on WhatsApp, I've realized even messaging my friends on WhatsApp, I'm like, how much am I really enjoying this? Like, do you know, it feels like it's rushed. Um, So I suppose that's why you get into like voice notes, but then voice notes become like a little bit like fucking hell. Like I'll send like a 17-minute voice note and then they'll send me a 17-minute voice note. And then that just ends up being a little bit, So I want to do like more phone calls. I want to do more in-person things. I want to do so like if you're someone who knows me and are listening, just know like I might not text back straight away. And there's a weird irony where like because I feel quite lonely a lot of the time, and that draws me to use WhatsApp and Instagram. But in a weird way, it makes it worse because it ends up being like a drug. And if you come to the app and there is no messages, then you're in this like dopamine trough where you were expecting a message and then you don't have it. Then it makes you feel lonely and then blah, blah, blah. And then you're in this cycle. Whereas if I'm kind of like less reliant on it and I'm like internally gratified and doing shit, and then just like once a day I check my messages, okay, I need to get back to people, then I feel like that's going to make me a better person and also like my time be respected a bit more. But yeah, I had this reflection as well when I've got an unreleased episode with a chap called Tom Hingley, who was the lead singer of the Inspiral Carpets, who were really big in the Manchester or Madchester scene in like the late 80s, early 90s. And so I've met him a few times through when I was at college, music college, and then I put on a gig with him years later, so I had that contact. And one of the things, one of the things he said to me on that conversation, the reason I've not released it is it's just not very good quality. So I don't think it's just not really the standard that I would want to release. He was driving in his car, and like the signal kept on cutting out and stuff. But I listened back to it, and he said about a true artist has to isolate themselves. And I was kind of like, and at the time it was like, oh, he's talking about musicians and stuff. And then I was like, yeah, there is definitely something in that, and it's something I've been trying to think about. Like it comes into this authenticity and creativity, and like trying to just like do it like how you instinctually think they should be done, rather than looking to others. And I'm like, oh, what do other podcasters do, or what do other content creators do, etc. And what are the things that people think that are weird about me, or like obscure, or that probably the sort of things that like my mates would rip me for. um Focus on that. Like that's what I'm trying to do, because that's what ultimately will mean that no one can compete with my weirdness, because um yeah, that's just weird, semi-neurotic Jason with his strange ideas. But hopefully, someone will like some of my strange ideas. So yeah, but the main reflection that came out of the Christmas period was how could I release more content, spend less time editing, or like how can I spend less time on the podcast but actually have more conversations, is another way to phrase it. And that was this like quantity over quality approach. And that doesn't mean that they're going to be low quality conversations, but it's like, where's all the fluff? Where's all the fat? Whether it be, you know, intros that take me 2 hours to record and edit. Like, honestly, it's crazy how long they seem to take. I could literally have another conversation in the time it take me to do an intro. So so this is one of my kind of thoughts, is like, where's the magic? Where's like the actual sustenance of what I'm doing? It's the conversation. So how can we have more of them? And last little self-reflection is trying to explain to people what my podcast about has been quite sometimes difficult, because it's like kind of niche in like this high rocks. I do a lot of high rock stuff and training, and then I've got like the other stuff which is a bit more broad appeal, you know, the self, health and wellness, and science and stuff like that. So you see, I'm absolutely ruining the description right now. So I was like, well, I'm going to start first. I'm going to start like labeling my conversations. So you'll see at the start, it'll say like high rocks, or it might say self, or it might say wealth. I was trying to get them all to rhyme, but I don't know if it will. So it's like high rocks, health, wealth, health. Have I said health? Yeah, there's another one in there, but kind of just like a broad category, so you can quickly see what it's going to be about. And then if it's not your sort of jam, then that's cool. And then additionally, I wanted to do more high rock stuff, but keep them separate in their sort of scheduling. So have a high rocks how it's specific, or it might be high rocks or training. I'm not fully decided yet. Like every 2 weeks on a Wednesday or something, and then you'll still get the other conversations every Monday as I have before. But the high rocks become like a bonus. So if you're into that sort of thing, then you'll get an extra one. And if you're not into it, then you're still getting stuff that is like more broad appeal coming out every Monday. So that's the plan. So I wanted to move on now to, as promised, a few concepts and tools that I've been thinking about or applying in my own life. So this is one I actually posted on my Instagram the other day, which is, and it seemed to resonate with people. So hopefully you'll take something from it. And it's that, do you ever get told that you think too much? I do. And someone said to me the other day, "Do you ever think you think too much?" And I'm like, "Oh, here we go again." And I just sort of said, "Well, you know, it's I see it as my strength, and that is how I feel, but also it was a bit of a kind of stock response. And because I, you know, value this person's opinion, I can't help but then reflect or thinking about things. And I was like thinking on it, and I was like, you know, do I think too much? And then what I realized was that it's, if you think all day but take no action, that's neurotic. If you think all day but take action, that's strategic. So it all comes down to the ratio of how much you are thinking and how much you are acting. So if you're spending all the time thinking but not actually doing anything, maybe you think too much. But if you're thinking about things, considering your options, meditating on them, reflecting on, you know, what is my highest point of contribution, um, or the most effective way that I can carry out this thing, and then do something, then that's strategy. And if you want a good life, you need to be strategic, apparently. So yeah, I hope that's helpful to you. Next one, this is one I've had for a couple of years now, but I don't think I mentioned it on the podcast because I wasn't sure if but it was, how could you optimize for Monday? So yeah, when any time in the week, certainly towards the end of the week, maybe Thursday, Friday, um, rather than, because most of us get to the end of the week and we go, right, I've got the weekend coming up. Right, I can't wait to get to the gym, or I can't wait to go out to that party, I can't wait to go to that gig, whatever you're doing. And then Monday rolls around. I mean, literally, like the whole, it's a bit of a meme, isn't it? Like everyone hates Mondays. Like, what is it, that Bob Geldof one? I don't like Mondays. And um, what's there's a slogan for like a job site, isn't there? Something about make Mondays awesome. I don't know what it's called. But I can't even think what it is now. But what if you could, and even if you're in a job that you don't like, even if you like, I don't know, going out and partying at the weekend, you can still apply this, because it's like that feeling of going into work on Monday when you feel like shit or when you don't want to do it is awful. And I would say it's having a huge effect on your mental health. So just think about how could you make Monday a little bit easier? Could you go home a couple of hours early from the pub? Could you um, just make sure that you get up on Sunday morning the same time you're getting up on Monday, and then having a nap in the middle of the day, if you're tired, but just so that it's not so much of a push, because it's like when you're in work, it's hard enough. So it's like if you're going to be like most people, well, I'd rather be tired on Monday while I'm in work because I value my own time more. I value my time at home with my family and not being tired on a Sunday. But it's like that like the effect that it has on you, being knackered and being like pulled and pushed in different ways. Oh, I've got this meeting and stuff. Whereas at least if you're tired on Sunday, I'm using this example that, I mean, ideally just go to bed and wake up at the same time every day. But I realize that some of you have a life, so um, yeah, I would argue that you're better being a little bit tired on the Sunday because you can get out for a walk. You don't have to be stuck behind the computer. You can have a nap in the middle of the day. You can, I was going to say like absolutely smash the caffeine in, but you've got to be careful with that because then you won't sleep and then Monday will be hard again. Or it could be getting towards the end of the week and Thursday or Friday and going, right, what can I do now which will make Monday better? Could I tidy my desk? Could I, set some things in motion so that it's just a little bit easier? Um, or it could be like I need to go wild this weekend. Like I haven't done anything like that. Maybe that's what fills you up and makes you feel great on Monday. Depends. Like everyone's different. Or maybe it's that I need to spend loads of time with family and friends. That's what I need this weekend. Right. That's how I'm optimizing for Monday, is actually having a good weekend filled with like activities that fill you up for the week. So there you go. I hope that's helpful. The other one, the last one, sorry, of these concepts was, I talk a lot, you may know or may not know, about high leverage activities, which is essentially, or I talk about longest levers, or the longest levers you can pull. I assume you know what leverage means, but it's just kind of like where you can apply little effort but get big results. And the analogy is obviously if you had a big old long lever and you pulled it at the end rather than pulling it at the front, you get more like purchase on it or something like that. So high leverage is good, but I feel like I get carried away with the high leverage thing. And I'm like, how can I focus on high impact rather than high leverage? So try and give you a little example. So I work in like marketing techie stuff. So high leverage is usually like leveraging AI or automation or so like how can I build a system which like automates this process? That's usually my where I'm trying to like do high leverage. Um, and But usually, me focusing on the high leverage thing is actually putting off the most impactful thing. The most impactful thing is usually the thing that terrifies you, eating the frog, as they say. So I might think, right, well, high leverage is like building this system of automation, whereas high impact would be me recording a landing page video for a sales funnel. Scary, don't want to do it. So I'd rather go, oh, how can I automate this other thing? So you've got to be careful of like this leverage thing becoming like a little bit of a excuse to do the important thing. Tim Ferriss said, what was it? Before you start your day, think about what's the one thing that scares you the most on your to-do list. Do that for 3 hours and nothing else. Like schedule out 3 hours in your calendar, even if it's a 10-minute activity. Schedule out 3 hours because that's the scariest thing, eating the frog. So yeah, I hope that's useful. Next up, I've got 4 tools for you. I don't know if tools is the right word, but let me know. So the first one is voice to text plus AI. So I don't know. So I don't know if they have this on Apple or other Androids, but on Google Pixel, they have a voice recorder that transcribes it at the same time. I use it every single day. It's fantastic. So maybe there will be apps out there, I'm sure. So um, yeah, there'll be a way to do it, even if you don't have a Google Pixel. So it'd be using that, and I use that. I actually have that running while I'm meditating, and I'll just like if something comes in my head, I'll just speak it out, or I'll take it. I'll go out walking, and I'll take that with me, or I'll have it on in the car, and I'll make notes. And it's just a really good method for like journaling or like working out what you need to do. And then use that to then be processed using AI. So one of the things you've got to be careful about with using AI is lacking originality and just getting the AI to do all the stuff for you. So one of the ways I get around this is I use voice to text to transcribe in a different app. You can actually do it with ChatGPT. They have like a voice to text thing, but sometimes it breaks. So I'll leave it on record and then I'll finish. It just goes, I failed. And I'm like, oh, fucking nice one. I just spent like 10 minutes. So I do it in the Google Recorder. I then copy the transcript to Google Docs. And then I take the transcript to select all, and then I put it in GPT, and then I paste it. But what that allows you to do is you can say to it, for example, I use this actually in therapy. So after my therapy session, I would do a voice to text diary entry sort of thing. This is what we discussed, da, 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 da. And then I would put that into GPT, and then I would say, give me a tidied up transcript of this, because sometimes like it's not great. Give me a tidied up transcript of this, keeping it 99% original from 99% original. And at the end, give me a bullet pointed AI generated summary. So then I would get basically my original voice note that's been tidied up, where it's just like there's like a random full stop, or it's maybe misunderstood a word I've said. 9 times out of 10, the AI will understand because like that don't make sense, and it'll fix it. So keep it 99% original. So then you're like, it's still your work. And then at the end, I get a bullet pointed summary, and it's just awesome. And like, it just saves me so much time. And you can use that in many different ways. So I hope that's useful. Um, just getting a drink. I told you I was on this morning. Yeah. The next one is post and ghost. So if you are wanting to be more creative, if you're wanting to spend your time more intentionally, I would highly recommend spending less time on social media. Shock horror. Like, I don't know, every person said that ever. But someone said, I can't remember who it was, I heard it somewhere, happiness is creating things, not consuming them. And it's like, excuse me. And it's like, you don't have to be a creator to actually be able to apply that. Maybe you want to create a better home environment with your family. Maybe you want to paint the kitchen. Maybe you want to create things with the whatever. But it can apply to everyone. But it's like, the more you're consuming stuff, and obviously if you're listening to this now, you are consuming, but I would say there are different levels of consumption. Consuming stuff on social media just feels like, most of the time, a huge negative. So yeah, I've sort of gone off on a tangent there, but post and ghost, which basically means whatever you're thinking about posting for the day, schedule a time to do it. So I've been like taking pictures on one phone, and like doing like screenshots of my notes and stuff, and then just favoriting them and send them to my other phone, like airdropping. I have another phone that's set up for social media. And then once a day, I just go in, add it all to my story, and then I disappear. I might check the messages once a day or twice a day. So yeah, post and ghost. It's amazing how much free time you have. Like, really is. So have a think about that. See how you can apply it to your own life. Certainly, if you feel like it's social media is getting you down, or you're using it too much. Next one, it's like 3 and 4, but they could kind of be like melded together, to be honest. But it's just keeping a note of when life felt great. So it's so easy when we're in a good space, mentally, spiritually, physically, to just be like, "Way, like life's great," and not really reflect on that or journal. Most of the time, we journal or reflect on stuff when life's not too great. So it would be journaling on that, but more of a kind of a high impact, like straightforward one would be just making a note of it. So I have a note section in my phone, and it's like, when life felt great, and it's like, life felt great when I was uh, leveraging accountability for my tasks and habits, when I was uh, tracking my calories, when I was I was struggling to think of many then. But yeah, just like, if you notice, like, oh, I'm in a really good like space at the moment. What's going on in your life? What you eating? Who you seeing? What you're spending your time doing? What you're not doing? List it out, and then keep a note of it, and then you can go back to it at some point. And even like, it comes back to like, even with like fitness and stuff, like if you were lifting like really well, if you were setting PRs, like what were you doing? And like maybe body comp, so maybe you've got a picture of yourself like looking lean or whatever you want. You could drop that in, like, and I was eating this stuff, and then if you then fall off the wagon, you can kind of look back and go, right, okay, that was a good time when I was doing well. And then The other one, I suppose, no, it is a separate thing. So this is keeping a note of how you, if you're someone who suffers with low mood, how you got out of it. So yeah, so you've just noticed like, oh, I was in this depression, and then I managed to pull myself out of it. What did I do? And then just write it down. So I'll give you a few of mine. So music, really straightforward. Like if I'm lying on the sofa, I don't want to do anything, and I'm feeling sorry for myself, and I'll just kind of like get my phone out, and podcasts actually work as well, by the way. So, but music especially is a bit more high energy, and I'll just put like shuffle play on or whatever. I'll just put something on, and usually, like, I'll start and I'll like at about 10 seconds in, and then I'm like, yeah, fucking hell, this is a tune, and then I'll get up, and then I'll start like dancing around the house and headbanging or whatever, and then there you go. The other one, and this may not be applicable to you, but it's just clear the decks. So most of the time, if I'm suffering from low mood, I would say 99% of the time, my house is messy. Whenever the house is tidy, I'm fine. Like, I'm fairly certain that's all the time. So clear the decks. So like if you're in a, it might be hard to get moving, but you might want to put the music on and then clear the decks. So just tidy shit up. If you're getting overwhelmed with all the stuff you've got to do, and maybe it's a form of procrastination, but I don't know. For me, just like get yourself working from like a decent space, and that's going to be good. And then the other one is a cold shower or an ice bath. Pretty self-explanatory. Or you can maybe go for a run as well. Something like that that's just going to put you in a little bit of discomfort, and then you're going to get the endorphins at the end of it. So there we go. That was my little bit of a monologue episode. I hope it was interesting for you to hear and useful. And I will be releasing another one around habits in the coming weeks. Maybe next week, maybe the week after. I'm not too sure yet. And yeah, so thank you for all of your support for last year, and if you're still listening now, really appreciate it. And yeah, I'm looking forward to an awesome year, and I hope you're having one too. And just remember, like, if you haven't done any of like your goal setting and stuff like that, and let's say you've already fallen off the wagon with your diet and stuff already, like, it's not too late. Like, don't just throw it out the window. Even like be weird, start in February. The gym will be less busy then as well. So yeah, that's it. And yeah, thank you so much, and I'll see you all soon. Hey guys, it's me. Thank you so much for watching that episode, and congratulations for making it all the way to the end. I really appreciate it. A few things before you get going. If you haven't already, please do subscribe. And if you enjoyed this episode, the kindest thing you can do for me is to share it with a friend or family member. Don't forget to check out the show notes for links to both my guests and myself. And if you made it this far, why don't you drop me a DM?